Sponsored by Saily. 20 years ago, Motorola sharpened up the cell phone space with the Razr V3, a $600 mobile so popular that it spawned innumerable sequels and not one, but two Razr reboots. In fact, the phone I own today still carries that venerable brand. But those Razrs were high-end homages, premium tributes built by the same Motorola that made the first one. This is not that. This is a straight-up copy of the first-generation Razr, but plasticized, detuned, and diminished, with every conceivable corner cut to get it down to its bargain basement price point. This is the Vortex V3, and despite the fact that it runs Android under its dumbphone disguise, with all the Google Play potential that comes with it, well, I hate to say it, but
this thing still isn't worth the $40 Amazon will ask you for it.
To be completely fair to Vortex, this is a really faithful reproduction of the Razr, even if it's more V3XX than classic V3. Beyond the broad strokes, the details have been duplicated. Microphone and earpiece grills, side key layout and shape. The new Type-C port even sits in the same spot the old mini USB did. Right down to its tough-to-take-off battery door.
There we go. Whew, ow.
This is a lovingly crafted reproduction, better than it has any right to be for $40. In fact, it's cheaper than one of the original Razrs I eBayed for this video. That combination of high fidelity and low price point is what drove the V3 to the top of r/dumbphones a few weeks back. In case you missed it, there's a modest feature phone revival brewing among the old, the anti-establishment, the young, and the generally digitally exhausted. A revival rooted in a rejection of the smartphone as the hub of the mobile experience. The trouble is that the replacements for those smartphones have historically been expensive, ungainly, or just plain ugly. And no, you can't use most vintage phones on modern networks. Well, despite its cheap plastic construction, the V3 is a looker, and for portability, it can't be beat.
Tiny.
More than once over my week with it, I've stopped in my tracks on the sidewalk, convinced I'd left the phone behind, when in reality I just forgot which pocket I put it in because it's so small and lightweight. There is support for US 4G bands and voice over LTE, so phone calls are clear, if a bit quiet, over both earpiece and speakerphone, and you do get caller ID on the cover screen too. There's a bare-bones calendar client, an SMS app, basic tools like timer, stopwatch, alarm clock, removable microSD storage, and you can use its dual-band Wi-Fi to spawn a mobile hotspot for a computer or a Kindle. There's a Google Assistant button, side keys for the camera and Do Not Disturb, and shortcuts to the browser and messaging apps too. Like I keep saying, buttons are back. So what's my problem? For $40, what more could I want? Well, a better copy of the electroluminescent laser-etched backlighting that made the old one so iconic, for one thing. But no, the real trouble starts with the battery, which at 1,000 mAh is only about a third the size of the average phones today. Combine that with the processor, which debuted in 2017, and the software it's running, Android 11 Go, released in 2020, and in this case sporting a security update from 2022, and you just get a perfect storm of power suck. The longest I ever got this phone to last was 11.5 hours, and to hit that figure, well, tell him, Peter.
I did nothing. I did absolutely nothing, and it was everything that I thought it could be.
Yeah, literally zero usage. It was in standby in my pocket for less than 12 hours, and it died. Rough. With a showing like that, you won't be surprised to hear that the minute you start to push it, you end up in a world of hurt. And by push it, I mean log into Google. There's no touchscreen here, so you're forced to use the numpad as a keyboard. And while I'm no stranger to T9, the out-of-box typing solution is terrible. Holding the star button will give you a mouse pointer for manually selecting things, but it doesn't always click properly. Sometimes the pointer will be aimed at the object you're trying to click, but there's a highlight that's somewhere else at the same time if you're on like a scrolling list, and which one the phone decides to obey seems to be random. So, no worries. All you need to do is use a Bluetooth keyboard for setup, right?
No, man.
Oh, sure, it'll pair with the phone. But, well, for one thing, the S key doesn't work. And no, it's not the keyboard, it's the phone. Oh, and don't make a typo, because backspace launches WhatsApp. Why did that just happen? And all throughout, the phone keeps having these little mini crashes of some kind. And each time that happens, you gotta start over.
Okay.
I was eventually able to log into Google and install Gboard, which helped with some of those input issues. But then I made the mistake of trying to install Telegram, which put this launcher into a death loop of seizures, even crashing to the bootloader at one point, which I couldn't even control with the volume keys. I actually have no idea how I got this to restart. Not until I uninstalled Telegram entirely did the phone recover, and I've read Reddit reports of this happening with Discord and WhatsApp too. You know what? I'm going to need a better keyboard and mouse if I'm going to make this work. Let's change venues to do that. And on the way, help me keep the lights on around here by swinging by today's sponsor. It's no secret that I'm a sailor at heart. So when I heard a new eSIM called Saily hit the scene, I was on board before they could weigh anchor. Saily is a global eSIM service to keep travelers connected on their trips. You just download the app, choose a data plan, and tell it which of over 190 countries you're traveling to. Your plan automatically activates when you reach your destination, so you don't need to deal with the complications of buying a new SIM card in a new country. And Saily is more than just an eSIM. It includes an ad blocker and virtual location features. That means you get a cleaner browsing experience and use less data in the process. So before you sail anywhere, get Saily. You'll get 15% off Saily eSIM data plans if you download the Saily app and use the code on your screen. Thanks to Saily for sponsoring this video. Okay, we're back home with my trusty K2HF1 keyboard, gift from friend of the channel Keychron, thank you very much, along with my old reliable folding phone stand and Microsoft Arc mouse. And it doesn't make things much better at all.
This is a joke.
The backspace still calls up WhatsApp no matter which software keyboard I install, and in some apps the back key doesn't respond to clicks from the mouse. Oh, and while the S key now works properly, now the @ symbol doesn't. So any login that calls for an email address sucks for us, I guess. At this point, I basically gave up on external input devices and installed the app TT9 to give me a traditional T9 keyboard. I got that idea from Peter Marinoff, who's filmed a very helpful 2-hour walkthrough of his attempts to improve the V3.
Wow, this is unusable.
But while TT9 is good, typing remains a challenge because the space and shift functions don't match what's printed on the keys. Now, I don't mind dictating text messages, but thanks to the pointer issues, that isn't reliable either, because you can't always hit the microphone button on Gboard. Beyond input issues, many apps fall victim to the tiny screen size, with critical buttons getting hidden below the display so they're impossible to click. For example, I'd broken out my mouse and keyboard on a park bench to install the NYC Ferry app so I could use my e-tickets for a boat ride. But I couldn't scroll past the welcome dialogue to actually buy a ticket. Yeah, when even the seagulls are laughing at you, it might be time to reconsider your life. I know, it's very funny, but it's my job, so if you could leave me alone, appreciate it. And life on the V3 is full of letdowns like this. Google Maps takes forever to get a proper GPS lock, and is functionally broken because of the same scrolling issues. The lack of NFC means you can't use the V3 as a digital wallet, while the budget Type-C port means wired headphones won't work, and you need to use a USB A to C cable to charge it. Now, Bluetooth earbuds do work, and so does Spotify. I was able to listen to a whole album while on my way to see some live music over the weekend. But if you remember the bad old days of inconsistent Bluetooth reception, depending on which pocket you kept your phone in, the V3 revives that terrible tradition. On the cherry on top, the volume rocker doesn't invert when the phone is closed, so down is up, and vice versa. Given all this, I bet you didn't expect much from the 5-megapixel camera. Or at least, I hope you didn't. I realize some of you might be enchanted by this yesteryear aesthetic, and I get it. But there are plenty of other phones with similarly compromised cameras that don't demand all the other sacrifices. Phones like the Cat phone. Sure, it may be 4 years old, its white label manufacturer now sadly defunct, but it's impossible to overstate how much better the Cat S22 Flip is than the V3, simply thanks to its touchscreen. Android just isn't built to function without one, at least not without a lot of work that Vortex hasn't done. And hey, who is Vortex Cellular anyway? Note, not Vortex Technology. Definitely not Vortex Technology. Well, it's a bit of an enigma. The website is bare bones and doesn't even list the V3 among Vortex's many models. I was briefly buoyed by an XDA post that pointed to a feature article on Tech You Like, but that turned out to be what I suspect is mostly AI slop. It didn't even get the name of the company right. From what I've been able to glean, Vortex mainly supplies phones to the Lifeline program, a federal initiative that provides discounted mobile phone service to low-income Americans. And I think it's great that those customers now have a more stylish option. But how did this direct copy of one of the most iconic phones of all time get built? I asked Motorola whether it licensed the design, or if the patent to that design had simply expired, but the company wasn't able to get me an answer by press time. And requests for comment sent to Vortex's social accounts and its COO on LinkedIn also went unanswered. I even tried calling the toll-free number I found at pissedconsumer.com, which greeted me with a robot voice telling me to fill out a customer service request on the website. If the V3 were a better device, I'd care more about getting to the bottom of these questions. The dumbphone revival really is gaining steam, and even I, longtime skeptic of the digital detox movement, have recently started exploring what it means to be more present in the way a less connected phone allows. But if it's a modern feature phone you want, you'll be better served by any of the more mature, albeit more expensive options than the constant frustration and comical annoyance of the V3. And if it's a true modern Razr you want, well, you can still get one of those right from the same company that built the first one. You can find my review of the Razr 2024 at this channel, the Mr. Mobile, on YouTube. Peter Marinov's Vortex V3 video can be found linked in the description, and stay tuned for my upcoming coverage on the most premium dumbphone of the 2020s, the Lightphone 3. It's hitting my mailbox sometime this spring, and I'm eager to see if it lives up to my high expectations. This review was produced after 1 week with a Vortex V3 purchased by Mr. Mobile, and even if the company had responded to my requests for comment, it would have received no editorial input or even an early preview. Vortex also, obviously, provided no compensation for the production of this review. The lone sponsor is Saily. Until next time, from Michael Fisher, Captain Two Phones on socials, thanks for watching. And stay mobile, my friends.